Good morning and afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. We are jumping into our second panel of the day, Securing a Safe Celebration, which is extremely important. And I have the privilege and honor to introduce our moderator today, Mrs. Yardley Kavanagh. She's
No, not Canada yet.
not yet. She's a woman extraordinaire. She's an actor. She's a journalist. She's an activist. A really great person and very knowledgeable. And I can't wait to hear you with our two special guests from England and Haiti to take over this very important panel on security and very timely, I should say. So without further ado, Yadli, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lorraine, and welcome to everybody who's joining us right now. And for the people who are still with us, thank you for staying because it is, like Lorraine said, a very important topic. Before I introduce my guests, and thank you, Lorraine, for this introduction. It's very sweet of you. I would like to let you know exactly what we're going to focus on during this panel. So, ensuring the safety of Carnival attendees is paramount to hosting a successful and memorable celebration, as you all know. In this discussion, that's what we're going to focus on. And we want to make sure the global experts that are here are going to help us understand the intricacies involved with safeguarding vibrant gatherings, protecting festival attendees, and all the challenges actually of managing hundreds of thousands of people, because that's what it is. And we have to adapt to the new protocols in heightened, like, political situations, sometimes social situations and tensions. How do we deal with that? So before we start with the panel, I would like to introduce our experts. First of all, Milena Sandler is in Haiti, and she's the executive director of Haiti Jazz Foundation. Milena is a distinguished figure in the Haitian cultural sector. And given Haiti's current situations, as you all know, Milena brings a unique perspective in ensuring safety for all attendees, rooted in her firsthand experience navigating these complex environments. As the executive director of the Haiti Jazz Foundation, she has been the driving force behind the Port-au-Prince International Jazz Festival, or as it's really called now, Pat Jazz Festival, now entering its 18th year in 2025, actually in January. Coming January. Her expertise spans beyond festival organization. She's also the co-founder and vice president of Haiti Musique, a pivotal association for Haitian music professionals, and the co-owner and manager of Welcome, heading a public relations agency. Sorry about that. She was born and raised in Paris, and Milena has traveled and lived in Fort-de-France, Martinique, Montreal, and Brussels, and she has moved back to Haiti in 2008. Milena has much more to offer. I mean, she's established Haiti Musique that led to the creation of Kai Musicla, a critical resource center for Haitian music industry, and the first ever industry mapping published by UNESCO. A staunch advocate, Milena has advocated for copyright enforcement in Haiti. You know, she's actively contributed to a music expertise for national cultural summits, promoting the establishment of private collective management in society to protect Haitian artists' rights. Welcome, Milena. I hope, I mean, if you can complete all this if you want, I hope it was okay with you. Welcome to the summit. And without further ado, I will introduce Chris Macmeikan, who told me I pronounced his name very well, so I'm glad. Founder of Continental Drifts. Chris is a pioneer in festival production and safety, brings over 30 years of industry expertise. As the founder of Continental Drifts, he has transformed how festivals worldwide manage gatherings as small or big. He has even done events for Buckingham Palace, Trafalgar Square, known for directing the high energy Shangri-La field at Glastonbury. He manages one of the world's most popular festival. I mean, a lot of people know Coachella, but you should know Shangri-La. Okay, he's drawn over 200,000 attendees and hosting secret performances like for the likes of Lady Gaga, Fatboy Slim. Chris's dedication extends beyond production logistics to industry-wide inclusivity. As the co-founder of the Carnival and Festival Lab, or LAB, with Pax Nindi, he champions diversity in festival leadership, aiming to bridge the stark underrepresentation of Black professionals in senior roles within Carnival and festival production, balancing artistic expression with security. Chris is also known as DJ Chris Tofu. Welcome, Chris. I hope I did you justice. I just hope.
I wish I just.
So welcome to both of you. Sorry?
Thank you.
You did such a good
You're
job.
welcome. Yeah, I did a good job. Thank you. I want to start with this first question. Given the scale of Carnival celebrations, and what are the first steps of planning security strategy and to large, diverse crowds? Because some people don't know. Milena, would you start?
Yes, I'd like to start with just giving a little background of the Pab Jazz Festival, which is very different from the huge events that Chris is hosting and managing. The difference with the carnival, we don't have so many people. The crowd we have per day is the maximum is 2,500 people. So it's not the same thing as a carnival. We're a nonprofit international events. It's usually over 8 days. We include artists from around the world, which is security-wise a challenge as well. We have a steering committee that includes the Ministry of Culture and the Ministry of Tourism, which is important in terms of the national police that we can include, and the touristic police. We have several embassies, up to 10 embassies. The Embassy of Canada is part of the steering committee. And we have different venues. A 4-star hotel, a university, sometimes public squares. We have jam sessions in restaurants. We have workshops, cinematheque, and different stage for upcoming, talent. And these happen in cultural centers. And everything besides the hotel is free access. So that gives us the possibility of having a social cohesion space. It's an event like that has very different people. We're targeting very diverse crowd, from ambassadors and ministers to expats, students, unemployed people, regular folks. So, and all of these people have different expectations in terms of security. So this is the challenge that we have. In terms of the question, I'd say in our case, it's really choosing the appropriate location and the venue. In terms of the space, the type of the number of people that you're expecting, the emergency exit possibilities, very different if you're in a semi-closed area like a university, or if you're in a public square, or just in the streets like the carnival. The accessibility as well, and the timing with respect to the weather when you choose to do your event. Of course, carnivals usually happen in February, but it can happen anytime. First steps is also to visit the space with people that are experts in event organization, if you're not yourself. I would say also contact all the authorities to get all the necessary authorization, the police, the fire department, and the Red Cross. In Haiti, it's the Red Cross, to have all of those secured, and for them to agree to where you're going to have your event and what type of crowd you're going to be hosting. we, as I said earlier, we have, as we are with the Ministry of Culture and Ministry of Education, we have the chance to have the National Police and the Touristic Police with us. So with them, they're part of the committee and they know all the itineraries, which for us is not only in when we have the event itself, it's also from the airport, bringing the artists to the hotel and to the different venues that they have to go. And so they know the itineraries, and we inform them of everything that we do, and we ask their opinion as experts in security, which we're not. We ask their opinion at every step of the way. We also have a private security company. So yeah, that would be the first steps that we take.
Okay. And I will ask the same question of Chris.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we work across loads of different gigs. We organise some really great carnival stuff. We do Hackney. We're related to Notting Hill. Of course, those things are massive. There's nearly 2 million people heading down to Notting Hill. The security conversations start over a year in advance for those things. And in fact, security and policing is such a big aspect of it. It's actually almost like a monster eating up any of the culture because there's so much money spent on security and stuff like that. Obviously, we don't have situations like where you would be in New Orleans. There's no guns. There's none of that sort of stuff. In terms of, the big festivals like Glastonbury, we've got 200,000 people. Security is often led by what artists you're booking, because you will lead to an incredible, we might have 200,000 people trying to get into a 10,000 people field, That's one of the big aspects for us. But yeah, it's all long in advance. Notting Hill has a permanent security police committee that's constantly meeting and stuff like that, and it's involving over 30,000, troops, as it were, from mainly the police and security firms and stuff like that, and volunteers as well take a part in all of that because they're closing down hundreds of roads. So yeah, that is a very big question. But all festivals and events all run by something called the license in the UK, and that's got pretty clear amounts of people per security guard and how they're going to deal with it. Unfortunately, the situation with Carnival in the UK is, we're going to get onto it, very, very difficult. It's not led by the black community at all. It's led by a bunch of often quite disinterested people. And yeah, Glastonbury is an ever-changing situation. We're into AI and cameras and all sorts of stuff over there. So yeah, it depends on what event it is, of course. Yeah, I think yeah.
So if I understand correctly, you guys, of course, have to have a collab with the law enforcement, the emergency services, and all of that, and sometimes private security. But now that you mention cameras and everything, can you discuss, Chris, any crowd control technologies or systems that have proven really effective in monitoring and managing the crowds?
Last few years, it's completely changed. There's like for instance, the heads of things like Hackney Carnival and Notting Hill and stuff like that. They use a lot of drones. They've become really big issues. The head of those carnivals no longer go into the carnival. They're just sitting in a big room full of TVs these days. And that goes for festivals as well, which also causes a problem because the people who've been planning it all year often aren't even in the festival. They're in a room watching TV all day, so they don't quite get the atmosphere in. In Glastonbury terms, they've had for a long time cameras that count the people. So they've had that for like at least 15 years. So they're very quick on telling you that you've got too many people, but they're really slow on making decisions about it, which can lead to other problems as well because they're not actually on the ground and it takes a while for it to reach up the chain. So that can cause you some problems as well. But yeah, on the whole, all of the festivals, all of the carnivals in the UK have been transformed by the use of drone technology, by the use of just tons of cameras, you know. And I'm pretty sure that I haven't actually seen it myself at Notting Hill. You've probably got one room full of people watching TV with one idea, and then another room full of other people watching the same TVs, commenting on other things. All these things take a long time in advance to set up and require, you know, good internet, for instance, and stuff like that, you know. So it's definitely changed with AI and security, watching people and stuff like that. You know, that is totally different. And of course, at the end of the festival, there's a really clean wash up because everything's been filmed, so they can watch every aspect of it. London is covered in cameras, millions of them anyway, so there's quite a lot of those up for Notting Hill already, but there's loads more put in.
In your experience, I don't want to cut you off, Chris, but in your experience, Milena, what has been the most challenging aspect of securing a festival or the carnival in a volatile political situation like Haiti?
Huh. um, it's the most challenging is, you know, having an international festival, meaning you have to bring artists from all over the world. There's a festival happening next week, which is called Quatre Chemins. It used to be international, now it's more local, and they have not postponed their events. On our case, the Pap Jazz is postponed. We had to make that heartfelt decision, but with a situation like the one that we're living right now in the capital, there's no way we can have a secured event for, you know, securing the public, the artists, our team. So the challenge is having, well, one of the challenges is having artists coming from different parts of the world. For instance, right now, all the international flights have been banned to come to Haiti. Some will resume in December, not for sure. Some will resume in January, others in February. So we had, everything was prepared because we work, I mean, before we used to organize the festival in April, start, you know, organizing 9 months in advance. With the situation being what it is since 2019 or 20, we've had to shorten how we, you know, the time that we take in advance to organize. So having people coming from different places, you have to book your artists, have your contract signed, and book your flight tickets. And this time we were waiting. We did everything but the plane tickets. So yeah, it's that, and it's the most it's, you have to be ready to adapt to the situation, to you have to have a plan B, a plan C, a plan D, working with everybody, working with the committee, having contracts that mention that in case we can't have the festival, then all the advances that we have given to the artists will come back to us. And yeah, it's be ready to adapt in 2023 and 2023. Sorry, we moved the festival to Cape Haitian, which is the second city in Haiti, because it was safe, and it's still safe. But it's the Port-au-Prince International Jazz Festival. It's not the Cape Haitian Jazz Festival. So it it has to be in Port-au-Prince. All the capitals in the world have jazz festivals. So if we can't do it right now, we're ready to push it until we can. But we are determined to do it this year. We have the situation of the rain, also the weather, because we don't have any closed venues. Thing happens outside. So December, January are the best time to have the festival because the weather is absolutely beautiful. But after that, you're closing your possibility in terms of having events like that.
Yeah, with hurricane seasons and all of that. Yeah, and the Caribbeans. I'm going to ask this of you, Chris. How do you strike balance between ensuring crowd safety and allowing the people to have the freedom to enjoy and express themselves during these carnivals or festivals?
Well, that's a really good question because what's happening in Carnival world, which is really important to me, is the cost of security, stewarding, and all the police and the groups that are involved in that has now outweighed the cultural cost 10 to 1. By the time we actually get down to the amount of money that we could spend on our artists, it's so much, it's like 10% maximum. So, it's really, really difficult. And one of the biggest problems facing carnivals is that, because what actually tends to happen is that the people who are making those decisions are not from the carnival community, and they can end up doing really crazy things, which are stuff like, we could only afford to secure your event till 6 o'clock at night or something like that, which, breaks our heart because everyone else on this group 100% do not shut early. You guys are running till way into the night. We've lost that because there aren't really enough faces who really support Carnival on those committees. Back in the day, it was easier because, councils, local authorities, London authorities, they swallowed all of those costs. But as time's gone on, there's more and more costs. So the one in Hackney, for instance, which is 250,000 people, that's like £1 million. But only 100,000 of that is actually spent on the actual carnival. So it is a terribly difficult equation. And a lot of the stuff that they're putting on us is probably not totally necessary, to be honest. But I'm talking from a cultural perspective here, not a production perspective. So yeah, it's a terribly difficult balance. But as time goes on, that stuff's getting more and more expensive, which is putting more and more pressure on the carnivals themselves, and the committees really expect a load of great stuff to happen. And at the same time, I think you mentioned it earlier, we have an incredibly small amount of people from the Black community who are working at a senior production level to really make a noise about this stuff. So yeah, it's a very, very, very complex equation. And, at the end of the day, the more security, people not from the community, not from people, the worse amount of money that we've got to actually spend on our West Indian communities or our Latin communities to make the best shows. So yeah, it's really complex equilibrium.
It's not an easy task to balance all of this, because even though you have law enforcement, we're dealing with big crowds, with people. And if I ask you the same question, Milena,
that was
do
the
you want me to
question
repeat?
about
Okay, how do you balance between ensuring crowd safety and allowing the people to have the freedom to enjoy themselves?
I think in Haiti, the people are, we can have the security companies that we hire mingle, with the people. It's not, they're not seeing, they won't see it as, as a problem. So no, we don't have it's not a situation that we have. People don't feel disturbed by the security, by the law enforcement or the security. Usually the law enforcement, the national police and the touristic police will mingle. The national police will be outside with big tower lights, and the private companies that we have will mingle with the people. And it's not, people won't see it as a disrupting for them.
Okay. It won't be like a threat or, disrupting, like you said.
No.
Okay. And what measures do you think you would use to ensure a quick, efficient evacuation plan? Should there be like some sort of emergency? I'll start with you, Chris.
We've had quite a few show stops. It's generally due to weather, to be honest, more than anything else. But we have to do it from the stages. We have to really, really, really communicate to the audience quick. So all of our stage managers, all of our compares even are all completely prepped for the moment that somebody calls showstop, which comes usually from the head of production land and stuff like that. Obviously the security on the site and stuff like that know what's going on, but it's kind of like a balance between the people running the stages or running the outlets saying the right things and then gently pushing everybody out of the way. I mean, it's kind of work, but we do not have the same level of risk as, say, some countries with guns. Do you know what I'm saying? Obviously, Vegas, all of those type of things. This is very unlikely to happen here. So yeah, we just really, from our point of view, we really, really train up our MCs and stages and public announcement situations to get people moving. But obviously it doesn't work like that. Sometimes you've got to push everybody into the right place, and sometimes that creates an enormous problems as well, which it has done in the past. And then once people are outside of the PA and outside of the places where people can talk to them, that's also where we send people in with megaphones to explain what's going on in the perfect situation. We have actually had to close down a few festivals just like that, and it's just done from stages mainly with security in tandem, this sort of thing.
I will ask you the same question, Milena. How do you how do you ensure, like, if there's couri, like somebody, sometimes there are people who just act stupidly and you hear a sound and people have to evacuate. What's your plan?
Well, we train the staff and the volunteer, because we have volunteers to know the first techniques and to know the area pretty well, know where the exits are, and forming corridors. But I touch wood, we haven't had anything like that happen. The only thing that happens is, if it rains, then people first will, look. But in that case, we have our volunteers with umbrellas or big parasol, to help the crowd. And yeah, but the only time it was in for 2024, we were thinking of we couldn't find a space to host the free events, because the university was out of the way. It was too insecure as an area. And we're looking for other schools. And so we looked everywhere. And at some point, we just decided, let's just do it in a public square. And we just decided that. And the idea of, how do you say, just a big sound, the level of stress of the population is very high. Since I don't know. So just the idea of having 2,500 people all happy and enjoying themselves, and just a big sound happened, and everybody would be just so scared. So we just decided, no way. We had the 2024 Pab Jazz was all happened in the hotel that I mentioned. Everything was ticketed. We could not have it in a free event, in a free space.
To be on the secure side of things. You had no other choice. You had no other choice. So how do rising costs for security, like technologies, personnel, logistics, impact your budget planning? And what strategies have helped you to manage all of these expenses? I'm going to go to Chris first.
On the Carnival front, we get most of our money from local authorities and, like the councils and stuff like that. And in the last couple of years, things have got really tough on that front. So obviously, we're really mega scared of what the actual bottom line's going to look like. So yeah, it's obviously a massive balance. At Glastonbury, for instance, we thought those guys would never run out of money, but nowadays they are. They can put the ticket price up by £20, £30, £50, and that extra money's gone within 2 weeks before, since they put it up. It's just raising so high. So yeah, it's an incredibly big part of it. And especially with Carnival, you can't exactly control. All the carnivals are like free to access. There's no gate you have to go through to get in any of them. And it would be impossible to do it that way anyway, because it's a community event. So it's become more and more complex, Plus, I'll reiterate again, people from the Black community and senior production, if they're not there, then terrible decisions could be made along the lines of, oh, well, we can't do this, and then we really have to work out ways of doing it. They're not really accepting. Back in the day, we had loads of hundreds and hundreds, and we still do have hundreds and hundreds of volunteers, but that's not good enough for proper security these days. So yeah, it's an issue. I'd love to hear what other people's stories are on that front, but as much money as we try and raise at the moment because of this inflation stuff, it's getting eaten up straight away. At Glastonbury, for instance, we have to knock down the level of artists. So, for instance, you mentioned earlier that we had Lady Gaga on. She was playing for free, and we still get asked on our smaller stages that we run in Shangri-La by really massive, globally famous artists just want to do the gig. So we have to do less of them because that's causing a lot of security issues, really. Whereas before they just let it happen. We tend to put on those famous artists on, we have Fatboy Slim all during the day rather than at night, because we would lead to 200,000 people, or Fred again, or whatever, heading in our direction. So we've had to really think about that as well, which is great. We've got an audience for underground artists, which is an overground size audience, which is a good thing. But yeah, again, it's become really complex, and I think I might have mentioned earlier, those decisions are going through pipelines that, the incident could have happened an hour ago and everybody's completely over it, but they're still making decisions at all these different levels that take time and confuse the hell out of the audience. It's not unusual for 10,000 people to be stuck out on a railway track where it's all dark because they can't get into our field at the moment, So yeah, it's constantly monitored like crazy. But yeah, biggest problems, they just don't have the money to cover that stuff. If Gaga asked me to do a gig now and we were friends with her and stuff, we'd be just like, we can't do it.
You can't afford her sometimes, but I understand. I don't want to ask that question of you right now, Milena, but there's something that I want to discuss. Can you discuss the importance of training, preparing festival staff and volunteers in crowd, like in case of emergency, crowd control? How do you manage all that?
So we have a very good relationship with the Red Cross, and have a training for the volunteers and all of the staff for life-saving techniques. And so that's really, really important. And just basic stuff, how to use a fire extinguisher, for instance, because you can have it there and you don't know how to use it. That was my case. And make sure that you have very thorough visits of the different spaces, as we are in very different, different spaces with anybody that will be on that space, whether it is volunteers or the staff or the security, the private security that we have. We also have, since an episode that maybe we'll talk about later, that we had in 2013, I believe. Now we have a private company that verifies the electricity on the stage, which we did not before. It was, the sound company or the generator company whatsoever that would come and do everything. We had a situation, and now we have a private company that comes and do that. Make sure that the stage is built in, with the safety standards, because it happened that, you have your stage that just breaks. Make sure that you have a ramp, the stairs that bring to the stage, that you have a ramp. That's an artist that told the staff, you don't have a ramp, I could sue you. Now we have a ramp. All of those, but that was very nice of her to just, mention it, because she could have just not said it and something would have happened. So yeah, it's all of those different steps that we go through to make sure that the best that we can, to have the space or the events as secured as we can.
It's funny that you mentioned the ramp, because I was about to say, how do you approach accessibility for, people who have disability or safety vulnerable groups at large? I mean, these people need to feel also secure in an open space and an open environment. So I'm glad you mentioned that example, Milena. Chris, how do you deal with this?
I think most events have, viewing platforms and disabled organisations that are involved, creating disabled areas. Certainly Notting Hill does, and other places. But for instance, when it comes to disabled artists, I still think it's a young time for people to understand that. Obviously, we will supply a ramp. Most of our big stages have ramps anyway and stuff like that, but there's other parts of disability that can be missed. There's a lot of work around mental health and creating safe spaces for people to hang out in when they feel like it's too much noise and too much action going on. It's still young days. We're working at the moment on a completely designed by, run by, and with disabled artist venues at the moment, which is kind of interesting, with vibrating floors and all of this sort of stuff, But yeah, there's been some good work this side on that front, I mean, it's part of your license agreement to supply places for people like that and to check that out. And, a gig like Glastonbury's got 67,000 crew on it. So not one of those people comes through the gate without actually reading reams of stuff, because they can't actually get their ticket until they've signed that off. So, we become more and more putting that onto the people and putting that onto the crew to look for disabled people and stuff like that. But with artists, it's slightly different. There aren't enormous amounts of disabled artists. We check on all of our pre-booking that, we would want to hear if there was a person, we would hear about it. We lay on fridges for people's medicine, you know, general access for them backstage. But we're all working a lot harder on that, you know, especially disabled crew, actually, because there's a lot of disabled people who can work on the crew. They just need to have all the right ramps in place or the correct, you know, places to charge their wheelchairs when they're, you know, camping and stuff like that, you know. So I feel like quite proud of some of the work that's gone on over here on that.
I'm glad that you've taken into account all the disabled people because they're entitled also to feel and live through a festival or carnival without feeling like insecure in the big space and saying, "Oh, how am I going to get out if something happens? What should happen?" I wanted to find out from both of you. I don't know if in Haiti they use that. How does the use of digital, like the wristbands or the tracking devices, sometimes they put or other tech tools help in monitoring and managing the movement in terms of safety and security? Milena,
We don't have.
you don't have that.
We're not there yet.
No, it will come. It will come. Chris, back to you.
I guess one of the joys of that RFID technology is that it reads where all the people are, so they can. I mean, obviously, you know, RFID. You know, it's just like in your wristband; they know where you are, sort of thing. Obviously, the commercialists of us, the beer companies, all of those people, they really use that data to try and sell more of their stuff. We can definitely know, for instance, they definitely know where the pinch points are and stuff like that when they happen. I think in Notting Hill, they're very effective in sort of closing down or halting up areas while this other thing comes because they've seen it in advance. You know, I was leading a Carnival parade this year in Hackney, and there was a drone above my head reading the audience, literally 10 foot above my head the whole way for 2 hours. You know, they're checking it out and then they'll come to me, stop that carnival now. There's loads of people in front of you and all of this sort of stuff. So, yeah, I guess it's being used. But on an event the size of Notting Hill, it's 2 million people. It's, again, for the disabled people, there's parts where they just cannot get in and there's no control over that. It's a bit, you know, down to the public's goodwill, as it always has been with security, to be fair. You know.
How do you navigate crowd control with implementing eco-friendly measures, for example, like reducing barriers or introducing new materials that may impact traditional security methods? Milena, do you think you don't use that? No. Okay. I'll get back to you for sure. Don't worry. I have something for you.
We don't have, I don't even know what you're referring to. So I'll be very interested to hear your answer, Chris, actually.
Chris, yes.
I will admit, I don't really.
You know, everything is eco-friendly now, so what measures do we do to reduce the impact on the environment while we're creating these festivals, these carnivals?
No, I understand that, but that having to do with security, what material, I don't know. I'm curious.
So Chris, the ball is in your corner. He's thinking. I can come back to this question much later. Can come back to this much later. You'd rather.
The eco parts of festivals are changing very fast, and it's great to see. You know, we're involved in a lot of really deep ecological processes around power. You know, obviously there's the obvious recycled. I mean, you know, but in terms of security, I can't really answer that. I don't think it makes any difference to us at the moment. I think
at the moment, okay.
Again,
is there like an example both of you could give us of challenging security incident that has happened in the past and how your team has responded in order to maintain safety and restore the calm that maybe would be a good example for others who are watching us right now? I will start with Milena.
So yeah, I mentioned it very fast earlier. We had that situation where it was in Focal. Focal is a cultural center. We were hosting the event, the free access stages in their parking lot. We had a problem with the generator. the whole day, the generator was a situation. It's a very big problem in Haiti because we don't have electricity, so we have to use generators all the time. And they're usually, not functioning very well. And in any case, it's all day we're trying to make it work. And we never do any sound check with the public present. But at some point, we had to let the crowd in very slowly, but still. And it was the last sound check. And a musician got an electric shock in front of the crowd.
Oh, God.
He is fine and alive and all happy. And I want to say that. But
Yes, it's important.
yeah, but that 13 years was a lesson learned for everything, security wise and emergency and all of that. We thank God there was a doctor, but since then we have a dedicated doctor, friend of the festival, which he's there every time. We have the Red Cross with ambulance. We have so we take the necessary measures that the volunteers and the staff learn, the first aid techniques. We have that private security company, electric company that comes and check the stage before anybody goes on the stage. And we have insurance, which we didn't before. So in Haiti, I think we're the only, one of the only events that have insured all of the it sounds, everybody's like, oh my God, but it's the case. It's, so yeah. And so that was, nothing happened that was major, but there was not nobody died but thank God it happened, because now we take the proper measures. And I'm sure there's a lot more than we would, but we're getting there.
You're getting there. And Chris, for you, do you want me to repeat?
No, I heard your question. So basically, last year we had a massive crush situation, actually at Glastonbury, and someone had actually died on the track getting into our field. So we had to isolate that whole area, get people to get security up there, make sure it was rounded off, divert flows for people going in other directions. Whenever we've had a big situation like that, I can honestly say that it's probably not security that are the most helpful. It again comes down to communicating to the audience. The audience should never be left hanging around when you've got some of the biggest PAs in the world not knowing what's going on. You know what I'm saying? So I've seen that many times where the people on stage just do not organize it. So yeah, in our world, we were all about communicating with the audience. We've had a lot of fake things turn up, where we've had to run by police. We've had fake bomb scares over the years and stuff like that, where we've had to just follow the police line, push everyone out, no problem. Someone just left their bag, Thankfully, it's only been like that, but, it all calls for in the second organizational capacity. Everybody's ready for that stuff. We have emergency plans that, again, you can't get your wristband or you can't be involved until you've signed that you've read that stuff. But fortunately, we haven't had any really major, really nasty situations happening like that. Obviously, Notting Hill, there's always a few stabbings, and the police are really good at isolating those things really quickly. you know, but then the audience and many other people from carnivals here will understand, you know, the audience gets really excited. They love the idea that there's some sort of big riot going on and they all rush and they do this rushing thing, which, you know, they've been trying to cut down for a long time, but there's hardly any control and there's usually nothing going on, you know. So again, really good communication with the audience. It's actually not the paid security, it's those stage people that really need to be told so they can communicate effectively with the audience. And sometimes it works, and sometimes those people have no idea what's going on. You know, you've seen big rock gigs and stuff like that where people have been crushed and having horrible times, and the guys on stage singing still, you know, because they just didn't communicate it with the artists. So it's really important. I mean, obviously all of us have got unique situations. So, you know, that's how we deal with it on this side.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was going to ask, how to ensure effective communications with the attendees for their safety, like in terms of safety protocols without causing unnecessary worry. We've seen that. I don't remember which group, but they had to stop because somebody had a malaise and they realized it while they were singing this on stage, and they had to say to the crowd, come on, let's make way for, the ambulance and all of this so that they could resuscitate that person, and they stopped their show. So, I'm glad you mentioned that it's important to have communication with the attendees so they understand the protocols. We know that a lot of these festivals, people are going to take alcohol, a little bit of buzz, and how do you ensure the safety in that type of environment with the attendees? I mean, is it allowed to drink on these carnivals? What do you do in terms of addressing these particular challenges, Milena?
So for the unticketed, the free stages that we have, before Barbancourt, which is the national rum company, used to have a trailer bar and just giving away cocktails to everybody. So you had that long line, in between the sets. You had that long line of people, and after a while they got drunk. So since we are, we have the Pape Jazz Vert, which is our eco-responsible side of things. We have implemented reusable cups that you have to rent in order to get your drink. So it's a lot less people actually go and get, their drinks. And so we secured it like that. But besides that, no, we don't, people drink and have their booze but it's never gotten to, something very dramatic or anything like that.
Okay. That's a good idea though. The cup. Very good idea. Chris, what about you?
Well, I think, that there's so many parts to this question. For alcohol and stuff like that, that's down to the security to keep an eye on people. If somebody's bowling through, knocking people over, and like I would say, not just at our events, at events in general, all that kind of molestation type stuff and all of that, that's often down to alcohol, So security are all briefed to look for that extra drunk person. There's one really cool, with the youth, there's a whole other, barrel of laughs. There was one really great festival here, 100,000 people. The kids all started doing this drug called ketamine, which is a nasty drug, and what tends to happen is once they've taken it, they turn themselves into a human cannonball and just throw themselves at everyone. It was horrible, absolutely horrible. And the festival had to really do something about it. And what they did was contacted every single punter, made it a massive part of their publicity. You cannot do this drug here. If we catch you doing this drug, you're gone. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, It was really horrible. And they managed to clean that up. They managed to make it look to all the youths turning up. What you're doing is really socially not cool. You know, like an idiot. You're an idiot, I think was the whole, the whole structure of their thing, basically saying, you know, you cannot do that. And it was terrible. I mean, I got knocked down by these people. They can't see where they're going. They just fly through the audience. So I think that's gone down a lot more at those sort of gigs, but you can never tell what crazy drug people are on. And obviously, you know, I mean, we don't have quite the same stuff that maybe USA and Canada has. We don't have a fentanyl problem and stuff like that. But, you know, again, it's those drugs that make people go absolutely insane, you know, that, yeah.
It's insane. Yeah.
Time, you know, but I think in Carnival, like Notting Hill, people get really drunk. But there's not so many outlets, and they got to have to pay like, you know, 10 Canadian dollars to get a drink anyway. So they got to be pretty rich at the end of the day. But yeah, it's always an issue. But the police are used to that for centuries, you know.
We have actually 5 more minutes in our discussion before we go to the Q&A. I wanted to know if there was like a lesson. I mean, we talked about what happened with the electric company and everything, but is there something else that you would like to share with our carnivals, different carnivals, our effective safety protocols that you say, hey, this is what really helped me out, or some sort of a lesson that's stuck with you guys for people who are watching? I will start with Milena.
I would say really remember why you're doing your event. You're doing it for the people to enjoy themselves. In our case, it's really for also to change the narrative about Haiti, that we can have beautiful, peaceful, diverse crowd be together and enjoy an event. So remember why you're doing it. Don't do it if you feel that you can't. If it's not going to be, if you won't be able to secure and have, you know, a peaceful event, that just don't have it at that time. That's what we're deciding now for January. We're not going to have it because we can't, you know, it doesn't look like it's going to be fine. Maybe it will, but we can't take the chance. Be ready to postpone. Be ready to change location if you have to. Just be ready for plan B, plan C, plan D, as I said earlier. But remember, this is why you're doing an event, for people to be happy, not to make money in our case, not to, you know, but for people to enjoy themselves. So yeah, that would be.
That's excellent. I'm starting to look at the chat, sorry, and the Q&As. What about you, Chris?
Oh, I agree with everything Milena said just then, you know. Also, people need to program carefully. You know, there's a big shift across all of the people who are listening to this right now to have more female artists, less abrasive artists, less artists that get the audience really worked. It just doesn't help, you know. There are some artists, you know, that in urban music who will really, 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 their main aim is to turn that audience into a boiling mass of arms and legs. You know, we don't always do that. We try to know that person's going to do that, to program at the right time. I'd also really like to just flip it the other way around as well, because myself and Pax are really, you know, we're seeing, as I said earlier, the lack of people from the carnival community representing this stuff is, it's just so minimal. I mean, like 0.01% of all production in the UK is from the Black community, and it's mostly Black community music on stages and stuff like that. We need more voices up in those health and safety meetings and up in those local authority and security meetings to make sure that the people who are actually running all this stuff actually understand, no, the community's not going to do that. Yeah, maybe that will happen over there, but in Hackney this year we had mountains of bottles of water all the way along the route in case somebody attacks somebody with some acid. Well, it's never actually happened, and that was thousands of pounds worth of organisation. We just need to get a good balance, and we need to have people from the communities that are being represented by carnivals right up there, right in senior production and talking to the heads of everything. Because sometimes when you get, for instance, on one of these carnivals, the ex-head of police running the freaking carnival, then you lose a lot of vibe. I'm from a cultural position myself, cultural person like that. I'm a programmer, so I feel like I'm strongly. I know that doesn't really answer the question. Sometimes it's way over the top. Really, really, really ruins the vibe.
Well, I mean, I love both your answers. And of course, the key, I think, is the involvement of the community, like so that they feel that they're part of it. Like Milena said, we're doing these festivals, these carnivals for the different people. So if we don't get them involved, therefore, I don't think we're going to have the successes that all of you are getting, right? We're going to go to our Q&A. I have already a comment from somebody who's in Martinique. She wrote it in French. I don't know if I read it in French first, Lorraine, and then I translate, or I don't know if Lorraine's hearing me. Okay. She says, I'm going to translate it really quickly. Les questions de sécurité pour un carnaval ou un festival sont forcément liées aux limites dues à la taille, à la ville et au pays. So the questions of security depending on the carnival, the limits, depending on the city, the size of the city. She says, for example, in Martinique, there's like 80,000 people in Fort-de-France, for the population of 350,000 inhabitants. So, the means that you guys discuss, maybe wouldn't work or would work depending because it's a French system. She would like to know, je voudrais savoir comment les organisations de vos carnavals font face aux exigences des maisons d'assurance. So she would like to know how your different organizations have dealt with the insurance brokers that are insuring, everything, protecting the events, public, artists, and materials. And she says to Milena, bon courage pour Haiti. So lots of strength and courage for Haiti. So which one of you wants to start with this one in terms of the insurance, that you have to pay? Chris, Milena?
I'll start. We usually we have a local insurance company that will we only found that one company. The other companies were not insuring either our material or equipment or the people. So that one agreed to insure us, but we don't have an insurance policy that will insure the event per se. So it will be, in case of an accident or something like that, or equipment, because we own our own equipment, but besides that, sometimes when we've had international artists, they had asking for insurance that were more expensive than their fees. So we could not go ahead with booking those artists. So yeah, that's our situation.
Okay, Chris?
So public liability insurance, you can't go ahead without that. Equipment insurance gets wrapped up in that. All the artists are in theory meant to have public liability insurance as well. So it's pretty heavy on the insurance, to be honest. I don't know if everybody else has noticed, but the insurance companies during the cost of living crisis have somehow managed to put 4 times the cost of their insurance on. And it's, it feels a bit like they're being just super greedy because when we first started this business, insurance was super low because there's not that many massive things that that have happened to insurance. But yeah, currently we're pretty much covered for insurance, but we're not. A lot of festivals aren't happening because they can't afford the insurance right now, and it just doesn't make any sense. Why have insurance companies suddenly started charging 4 times more? It feels like gouging. It feels like they're just living off us because these are big organizations. Also, I would say, you can never guess what's gonna, like a guy goes backstage illegally on one of our stages, falls over, breaks his leg. We had to pay him £35,000 for that, and it's
Wow.
like Jesus. The guy was drunk, totally drunk, been there anyway. And then they ended up suing Glastonbury. Had to pay that actually, which was just crazy. So there's always, even beyond insurance, there's always these things happening that someone will pin on you, even though they were completely blind drunk in the wrong place at the wrong time. The whole litigation thing's a nightmare. But at the moment,
It's terrible.
insurance is the cost of blooming
Mm.
insurance in the UK.
The person who asked the question, I said it was a she. I'm sorry, it was so tiny. It's Yves-Marie Serraline. He's secretary of the Federation of Carnival in Martinique. Sorry, it's a he. Okay. There's another question. There's Caroline Constantin. I don't know if she's still with us. She wanted to answer that. So, do you want to open your mic, Caroline, please? She's there, but I don't know if she hears me. Her mic is turned off, so we cannot hear you, Caroline. Do you want to answer? I can't hear you. We'll come back to you, okay, Caroline? I'm just gonna, while you fix your mic, I'm just gonna, there's another comment that's for you specifically, Chris. How can Black folks, especially Caribbean folks, get involved in the committee? Very surprised to know Blacks are not running Notting Hill. So that was for you.
I better just clear that up, right? Basically, the Black community is running Notting Hill culturally, but when you get into the senior production level, the people are actually meeting, so the people that are actually deciding the rules that run the gig, that's where the shortage is. Myself and Pax and Indy from the UK have started up a thing called the Carnival Lab, and we're into like 30 people at the moment because we are desperate to make this work. If it doesn't work, the whole future of Carnival could come into problems. When it comes to events like Notting Hill, is that person from the UK or from, I didn't.
From the UK,
Yeah, they have to go.
Lorna Shelton-Beck from the UK.
Yes, please contact Pax and Indy.
Maybe she'll connect with you and find out more.
Sorry,
Ay, ay, ay.
Lorna's not from the UK. Lorna is from South Carolina.
Oh,
South Carolina, but okay, she mentioned it. I thought because she talked about Nothing Else. Thank you for the
you would have to
precision,
tell me as
Tony.
well.
Thank you. Caroline Constantin, are you back?
Oui,
I
est-ce que
see
vous
you.
m'entendez?
Très
Regardez.
bien, très bien,
Ah,
très bien.
super. Merci beaucoup.
She wanted to
Euh,
answer concerning the insurance.
oui, c'était pour apporter quelque chose. À Nice, nous montons un dossier de prévention et sécurité, dit dossier de grand rassemblement, qui était étudié par la préfecture 3 mois avant le carnaval. Cela est dû aussi aux attentats du 14 juillet en 2016 que Nice a subi, un attentat meurtrier. Et depuis, nous sommes soumis à la validation des autorités préfectorales. Et je suis tout à fait d'accord avec Chris quand il parle c'est au détriment de la culture et de notre énergie créative à tous, puisque le budget du sécurité, par exemple du carnaval de Nice, est près de plus d'un tiers du budget global du carnaval.
Incroyable quand même, hein? Parce qu'on doit sécuriser, you have to secure, I don't know if I do it in French, I think there's subtitles. Vous devez
Yes.
sécuriser le milieu pour être sûr que quand les gens vont venir, ils vont se sentir bien. Ils vont dire, bon, ben, je peux venir à enfin, dans ce festival ou ce carnaval sans avoir des appréhensions, malgré ce qui est arrivé par le passé.
C'est exactement ça. Et c'est vrai que le public vient en famille, sécurisé tranquillement, mais on leur demande d'être là 2 heures avant le début du carnaval. Il y a évidemment beaucoup de fouilles avec des portiques, beaucoup de sécurité mise en place. Mais il faut croire qu'il faut maintenant ça pour que tout se déroule bien. Et puis il y a eu les autres attentats à Paris aussi. Donc voilà, c'est aussi lié à un territoire, à une histoire de ville, et on n'est pas tous capables d'avoir une résilience face à nos événements culturels, hélas.
Malheureusement. Merci pour votre intervention, Caroline Constantin.
Merci à
Très
tous, c'est
apprécié.
passionnant, passionnant.
Vraiment,
Merci.
merci infiniment. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions? Are there other questions from the public, the attendees? Because I don't see more in the chat. Do you see some? So maybe somebody else. Just let me check. I think there's a new question. No. Sorry, Lorna. Yes, you're from Charleston, South Carolina. Yes, thank you. Thank you. But she says, what was she? It is the biggest carnival in England, talking about Notting Hill, the benchmark for many of us. That's what she wanted to add. So thank you, Lorna. Are there any other questions from anybody else concerning this? We have 5 more minutes in terms of Q&A. If not, 4 actually now. If not, we're going to wrap it up. Tony, Lauren, do you have any questions for our guests? I see Jean-Paul, Atalia. Everybody's shy all of a sudden. Jean-Paul,
Well,
your mic is not on. I see that you raised
no,
your hand.
I don't have any questions, but it's great. I work in the festival industry, so I really appreciated what everybody said. Thank you very much.
Thank
I'm
you.
not shy.
No. I know you're not. So I was teasing you to see if you were going to come out. And we have to say, Jean-Paul is here in the festival departments. He really, the Grand Prix and all that, he really does a great job. And he knows exactly what you guys are dealing with. So he's next, right after us, after the break, if you want to please attend his panel afterwards. Okay. Go ahead, Atalia.
No, wow. I'm here. What happened is that I'm listening to all the things concerning, safety as well. We had an incident some time ago in Trinidad. In fact, we had a few incidents during the course of the years. We've heard it in different events. I don't want to pinpoint any because, I'm cool with everybody. So that's the thing, but we have seen so many things happen, and over time we have seen a lot of the promoters get really, really well and good when it came, in particular when it comes to the same thing with sound checks, ensuring that stage setups, because we do a lot of these what you call it, like cabana something, so you could like buy your group tickets and you and your crew could be on the something built so you can view the events as well. We've seen a lot of that happen, and we have seen the way in which they've gotten better with how they see and prepare for safety, because we have had sometimes some years ago, I think I was really little, and I remember one of the events they heard the whole stage collapse. Like everybody was on it, and it was a whole who got sued and who didn't get sued, who got a payout, who there weren't any lives lost, but there were persons who were injured really badly. So we have seen, even sometime I haven't heard of anything of the sort. The only other thing that I try to pay more attention to, because of reason we see a lot of the artists, they'll be performing but they're not aware and they fall off the stage. So now we have to now ensure that the persons who are performing, we let them know they no, you can't sue us. Because at the end of the day, you have to be mindful. You're seeing the stage, you know where the end of the stage is. So there are also some sort of onus onto the person who is performing to understand you also have to be smart about your performance as well. So again, over the time, it's sometimes it's trial and error, but I'm happy to see that something is happening when it comes to understanding the safety of not just your performers, your artists, but also the persons who are attending the event, and even also for the persons who are selling on the outside and inside of your events as well. So much is to be taken from this awesome interview, by the way. A lot of nuggets again, I'm learning and understanding. And I can't wait to see how all of this actually unfolds for next year, seeing it happen in real time, in real life. So yeah, that's my take.
Next year. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for your contribution, Atalia. And like you said, next year it will be live. We
Of
will all meet.
course. Well, I
There's a
can't wait to
new
be on the
question.
road. Yeah, they all know I like my road. I like to be in the costumes. I like to see all the people having a good time. I'll also be to doing interviews and stuff, talking to people, because I want to ensure that they enjoy the moment of the first ever World Carnival. It's none like it. And I want to take this time also to shout out Gemma, Lorraine, Pax, the entire team. If I haven't said thank you enough, I will be saying thank you today, because with all that we are doing, all the networking that we're making, awesome people that we're meeting around the world throughout this time, this I think is needed more than ever, now more than ever, for anything that we are doing. And we are seeing it happening in real time, in real life, with persons who are actually interested in what is going on right now. We're seeing persons who are, I mean, they didn't need to make the time, but they are here. You know, they are listening in as well. There are persons who are taking some time off from work to just hear what we are having to see. And that, for me, the impact is way much more like, how to, I can't put it into words really and truly, but this for me is more than what we have wrapped up in. So it will be a whirlwind of work happening, and as much as people need to understand, Carnival can't happen just at 2 months before, as Gemma said. It needs to be happening a year before, so you can start to plan for the next year to come and the next year to come. You look at all the other events, you try to network for all the other persons to even come and enjoy each other's cultures, and this for me is the melting pot of networking. And I thank you all for thinking of something so dynamic, and I look forward to all the great conversations on Montreal's Carnival and all the other carnivals, because listen to me, Chris, and everybody else, I'm coming. I'm coming.
Watch out, Lady in Red is coming your way.
Yes.
Thank you,
Yes, we're
Atalia,
waiting.
for
We're waiting.
The all-women carnival. That sounds fantastic. Nobody's
that's
done.
where
Hello.
that's great.
Well,
I want, before we have we've gone over a little bit. There's one more question, but I want to take the time to shout out to Gemma Rayburn. You know, she's the mama of it all. She's our queen. She started it all way back when, and she's still standing and doing more and more beautiful things. And
Yes.
Tony, Jordan,
you.
and Lorraine LeBlanc, I raise my hat to both of you. I mean, this is a great venture. This is great. And we will see each other in 25 years, and we'll laugh about, not being able to see each other the first time around, So that's why I'm hoping for this to last forever. And then, we'll get to meet all of you next year. Before we leave, there's one little more question from Martinique. I'll do it real quick. Est-ce que vous avez un protocole pour la prévention et le contrôle des matières inflammables dans les costumes et les chars? Do you have like a protocol to check, to make sure that, I guess, the garments, the dresses, and all that is not inflammable? Is there a protocol? They're asking. Atalia, is there a protocol in Trinidad?
Really and truly, a lot of the times we see a lot of people going green. It's not really a protocol, but I think it's again smart design. You don't want to put someone out on the road in your design that can actually injure them or to get them in any kind of situation. So I don't see any of the costumes being made where it could be dangerous. What we would look at is something like the king and queens when it comes to king and queen costumes, because people go so elaborate and they build. So I guess before before they actually put it on the stage, they have trial and errors to ensure that these costumes are actually wearable and to ensure that it's safe. Because the way how king and queens work, you have to be the person moving the costume. So it's a lot of movement, there's a lot of strength. The costume may have wheels, however, there's no other anything to carry the costume but you as the person. So I think the safety is based on comfort and being able to hold it as sturdiness as well. So it's not. I've never really seen anybody do anything outside of that besides the Moko Jumbi, which I think is dangerous, but I love Moko Jumbi so badly. So you can't get me away from Moko Jumbi. And for those who don't know what the Moko
Now,
is,
what is Moko Jumbi for the rest of us who don't know?
right. Right. So what it is actually the carnival on stilts. So they walk on some tall sticks.
I'm still.
Right. So, but in each country they call it something else. But in Trinidad and Tobago we call it the Moko Jumbi because I guess you're high, the Moko. So I forgot the actual meaning of the wording, but I know yesterday Dr. Wilson gave us a whole insight of what it was.
Yes.
And I mean, I have to go back to that because let me tell you, he's such a gem as well. He has so much nuggets in his conversations on what that was. However, outside of that, safety protocol is always important. The bands, they always ensure that it's security. You cannot have a band on the road without security. If you have no security, you don't go out on the road. You have to book your security way in advance as well. Because what happens as well, they based on the amount of capacity of persons per section, because you need to know per section so you can know how many persons that the fire services would actually grant you, and also the police services would be able to have on the road for even in fets. So you can't just have these events. You have to actually book them and pay in advance in order for them to provide the security for you to even have your events.
Definitely. I have to cut you short because Tony's
Yes.
looking at me that we went over a little bit so that you could explain.
Love
I
you,
want to
Tony.
thank our experts, Milena Sandler, Executive Director of Haiti Jazz Foundation. Thank you so very much. Chris Macmeikan, founder of Continental Drifts, of course, of Shangri-La, and so many other festivals. And check him out as DJ Chris Tofu. Thank you so very much for your time, your expertise, and your nuggets, as Atalia would say. Thank you so very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
everybody.
Thank you so much for having us.
Definitely. So
And
we'll
hope
be
to be in person next year.
Oh yes. Like
Definitely.
we hope that our strikes will be over and we can assure a nice and safe, pleasant conference in person. So we'll take about a 10-minute break right about now, and we will be back with our panel on collaborative and strategic ventures and sponsorship. Thank you.
Bye.